Hello, Harbo Holmes.
Hello.
I'm stoked to be chatting with you right now.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Honestly, yeah, it's
So, I have a few questions for you.
okay.
So, I guess without any preamble, we can just run through them now. So, question one is, what did you think of this most recent era?
What from like 2023 to
Yeah, like RTD2 starting with
up
the
to date?
60th.
Okay. Um, I liked the 60th specials. I thought they were very much kind of a return to form, at least in terms of like the general atmosphere and vibes of things. Because obviously, yeah, you had like a lot of familiar stuff going on, so it felt like kind of a return to a foundation we were familiar with that they could then build on. But I think then they kind of veered too much in a different direction for the rest of it. So I wasn't too much of a fan of like the 15th Doctor era in comparison. I think it was just kind of too different and too hit and miss and didn't quite have a unified vision in that sense. So I'd say it's very much, yeah, I like kind of the 14th Doctor stuff, not so much the 15th Doctor stuff.
Okay, that's a good answer. My thoughts on it might not have been quite as positive from the start, but I definitely see what you're getting at there. And yeah, I guess we can move on to the second question with that, which is, if you were showrunner, what might you have done differently?
Oh, um, that's a big one.
Yeah, I'm hitting you with the hard balls. I'm a proper interviewer.
I think I would have done a lot differently. I mean, I just have a huge disagreement with a lot of Russell T Davis's showrunner philosophy. I think he shouldn't have returned to do like kind of a lot of the same things. Like he just again this insistence on just Earth all the time and having companions from
Modern
our
day.
exact snapshot in time.
Yeah.
And so I think what I would have done differently is try to build up like a new familiar home setting on like a different planet with like an alien companion. Because yeah, I think it's so easy to still be able to relate to aliens and like robots and anything else. Like you just look at things like Wally, for example. Like you can relate to that little trash compacting robot, and it's just so it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
human or from present day Earth. So I think I would have definitely changed how the companions were approached, because it's a little bit of a like a cheat code for like an Oxy companion, but just making them anything but a present day British companion immediately gives them more of a character just
Yeah.
by having them have a slightly different background. So I've done that. I think I would have removed like the emphasis on unit, or at least how he handled unit. I maybe would have done it slightly differently. I just don't like the whole unit tower Avengers style thing they had going on. I think that kind of just it created a weird tonal dissonance in the era. And I think the other thing maybe I would have changed is I think I would have like flipped around series 15 and series 15, series 14. Because
So you would have had Belinda first?
yeah, because it's like I think a lot of the stories, like Lux and the Well, they're and like Robot Revolution, they're a better, more Doctor Who feeling entry into the era. Whereas when you start with stuff like Space Babies and Devil's Cord, it's very much just kind of whiplash, especially coming off the 60th. It's like, okay, wait, this is all suddenly sci fantasy. Like, what's going on here? It's all like I feel like it would have been easier to flip them around and start with the more familiar sci-fi stuff and then
Right.
transition into the sci fantasy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think there might have been some sort of misunderstanding of what Doctor Who's current demographic is. The
Oh
way
yeah.
that series 14 started, just it seemed to be aiming a bit lower than the actual demographic of people who are watching it in terms of age.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess with that we can move on. The next question is, as a content creator, how has this new era affected how you make Doctor Who content?
Well, are we talking pre-reality war or post-reality war?
Truly the most important dividing line in the show, pre and post reality war. Let's say both. Give a rundown on both.
Yeah. So pre-reality war, it was great. There was like more consistent who to work with. there was like a lot of stuff to make videos about. And then obviously like the episode reviews I was doing like weekly, they all did quite well. And it was like a very fun thing to do, very much like a grind to get them out a couple of days after each episode. But yeah, it was nice to do like those up to date kind of reviews. Because in the past I'd done like retrospective reviews, but I kind of ended those between series 14 and 15. So now like the only like review stuff I do in that sense is like the new episodes. But post Reality War, I'm not even going to do that anymore. Like I said in like my Reality War video, it's like I've got like no faith in the kind of current direction of the show. I'm not enjoying it. I don't want to make videos about like anything after the Reality War. So it's like things like War Between Land and the Sea, I just didn't make any videos about. And like the Christmas special in 2026, yes, it would be profitable from a business standpoint, but I just don't care. So I'm just not going to make any videos about it because I wouldn't enjoy it. And just, I just don't have like the faith that things are going to be good or enjoyable.
That's the thing. I think once you've kind of lost the faith of your audience, like once that trust is gone, it's really hard to get it back. And I feel like it's kind of been shattered. And on the topic of War Between the Land and the Sea, as someone who lives in Canada, there was literally no way for me to watch it legally when it came out. And even now, it's basically still completely inaccessible to me.
No, it was funny because I went to Gallifrey 1 in February in LA. And so War Between had aired like 2 months before for the people in the UK, but I was suddenly in an area where like most people hadn't even been able to see it yet.
Yeah.
So it was like weird when like you had like panels about it or like people touching upon it in panels, and it's like there's like a big storyline plot point involving Colonel Ibrahim, and the actor of Colonel Ibrahim was there at Gallifrey 1, and kind of he was having to dance around a lot of this stuff because it's like, it hadn't aired legally over there yet, so we couldn't just spoil this major thing that happens. So he was just really awkwardly trying to like dance around it, and like when he was on a panel. So it's a weird release strategy that they just kind of left it to just be like, oh, we'll just put it out whenever. We don't really care when it's going out in the overseas.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think a lot of what happened with this era, we can agree, had to do with a lot of Versal's decision making. But do you think Disney is also to blame for the odd way the series was released, with episodes dropping at midnight and then early in the morning?
So, and I like know like a little bit here and there from kind of industry like whispers and things like that. Like it was just the whole era was a complete mess in like every direction. Like just because you had all like the stuff about like Millie Gibson being like fired, quote unquote, but then like that's potentially like some people see that as a smear campaign because it wasn't actually her fault. And then there's like rumors of like Ncuti Gatwa and Russell T Davies having a falling out and kind of working out who was actually at fault there, because a lot of people are quick to pass the blame on one of them when it could actually be the other and stuff like that. And you had like the Disney stuff overshadowing it all because they said like 2 seasons and then we'll decide. And then so you get to the end of season 2 and they haven't even been able to make any progress on season 3 yet because it's not commissioned. So you kind of have that overhanging it, and that kind of affected the end of season 2 where you had Ncuti leave like very last minute. And so they had to cobble together that ending, which was like the worst possible way they could have gone about it. But they were very much working on like a very tight, horrible timeline. So just, every kind of level of it was just a complete kind of mess. And I think a lot of people are very quick to blame as like a singular entity, like say they blame Davis or they blame Disney, whereas it's just like this combination of just everything seemed to be going wrong for everyone involved. And it's just, I think it's one of those cases where if you give it like 20 years and all the NDAs have run out and stuff, we're going to hear some like crazy stories, I think, about this era and just everything that went weird or wrong about it. Because even like The Well wasn't meant to be like a midnight sequel. That was like Davis like took over and just kind of shoehorned that in.
And I feel like you can kind of tell it should not have been a midnight sequel in my mind.
Yeah, honestly, I liked it when it came out, but like it's one that's like drastically gone down in my estimations, and it's just, it feels so weird. And it's just, suddenly they've just shoehorned in this impossible entity from like one of the greatest episodes and just kind of thrown it in here where it doesn't make sense to belong there, and it just makes everything confusing. It's just literally for the sake of, hey, look, it's a familiar thing. And yeah, it's just,
which this era is very reliant on in general.
oh yeah. And that's the weird thing, because it's reliant on familiar things, but then it doesn't actually like match them to their character. Like the Rani, Omega, Sutek, none of them have anything in common with their like original, like popular Classic Who counterparts.
Yeah.
But then you have, them come back in the modern show, and the whole thing is just, they're here now. We just didn't care about what they're doing, or like, we don't want any character consistency.
Mm. And with that, why don't we move on to the final question here, which is, do you think the show is in a better or worse place now than it was before Russell returned?
I think it's actually in the same place, almost exactly. So from everything we've heard, Chibnall wrote Power of the Doctor with the assumption that was going to be like the last ever episode of Doctor Who. He didn't know that there was a successor lined up. He didn't know that anything was going to continue. So he kind of wrote that as a way to wrap everything up. And now we're once again in a point where I think Davis is one step out the door already, because just everything's gone wrong, and he's probably just like either being subtly pushed out or he's just walking out. And kind of, because it's like they made the statement about the Christmas special being like, he's agreed to write a Christmas special. It's like, if he's the current showrunner, you wouldn't really use that kind of term. Like, it should be like as if he's doing you a favor. So I think we're once again in a position where after that Christmas special, we might not have a doctor lined up. We might not have a showrunner lined up. It
or distributor.
Genuinely be another Wilderness Years situation. It's just like, it's again, I think it's like what Power of the Doctor was facing up to be until Davis then came along to kind of take over.
I have heard whispers, and I don't know if this is accurate, but that before Davis came along, the BBC was in talks with multiple streaming services with the idea of bringing in a totally new showrunner. But when Davis came, they kind of pivoted to his vision for a new era.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where we'll probably never truly know kind of what was going on in those talks. It's the same like now. There's always like tabloid articles coming out about like, oh, they're in talks with Netflix, oh, they're in talks with HBO. And it's like, we never really know. Like, it could literally just be that these streaming services are inquiring and then the BBC says no. And that it still gets reported as, oh, there's interest and things like that. So yeah, I think they definitely would have been asking around before kind of, and that's maybe why Davis did come back, because he kind of realized that no one was going to be taking over. So he kind of thought, well, let's keep the show going. I'll come back. And then, yeah, it kind of just, it went downhill from there. But I do feel like he did come back with the best of intentions to kind of, breathe some more life into the show to then set it up long term.
What do you think would be the best case scenario now? Do you think it would be another big distributor like Disney or, say, Netflix or Amazon, and a completely new, fresh showrunner with a fresh vision who's never worked on the show before? Or would you prefer somebody who has worked on the show before taking the reins, someone like Pete McTighe?
Oh, definitely not him.
Yeah.
Oh, God. It's a cure for insomnia. You wouldn't even have to put the episodes out at midnight.
Uh-huh.
I think it's dangerous going with a distributor. Like Netflix, I think should be immediately shut down. They can't be trusted with shows long run at all. Amazon, maybe they've done a good job with like Fallout, but like that's got a lot of money in it, and like I don't think Doctor Who would have the same luxury or the same interest. So it would always be under threat. I mean, Apple, out of all the streaming shows, would possibly be the safest, because they do a lot of like kind of high concept and like sci-fi and stuff like that that's been received really well.
Yeah, so, I mean, Severance is one of my favorite shows right now.
Yeah, they've got like a lot of big popular streaming shows, and I think they could possibly get value out of the Doctor Who brand. But I think in general, relying on a distributor, like, yes, streaming sites are the modern way, but I think Doctor Who can't easily fit into that model. They'd have to change it up a bit. Because because we saw with like, I think Disney Plus was a bad decision, just all around. It's not really, there's not really enough general interest on the American side of things for it to have been on Disney Plus, because then it just gets buried by everything else on there.
Yeah, well, I mean, 10, 15 years ago, I live in Canada.
Yeah.
But Canada is still very tuned into the American cultural sphere. And honestly, there was a time when Doctor Who was really breaking through in the US in a major way.
Yeah, 2010, 2011, that would have been perfect.
But unfortunately, that's just not the case anymore.
Yeah.
But I think there could be potential there for it to become a huge show in North America again. But sadly, this era just did not succeed.
Yeah. And I think again, a big part of that is how, like, the last few, like the three showrunners we've had in the last 21 years, they've all kind of had the same idea of what the show should be.
Yeah, they're very much so cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, they're literally part of just like the same fan clique, basically. So it's they all kind of have the same ideas, the same like connections and things like that. So
and they've all been there essentially since 2005, since the beginning of the reboot.
I do think we need some fresh blood now. Now, whether that is someone that's written for the show before in like recent years, or whether that's someone completely new, or even just like a non-fan in general, I think it's worse to go for someone that's like Pete Mattei, where it's just so mid and just bland. Because then no one, like, you can't, it's not even like it's got you like a really dedicated core and then like a really dedicated hate watching group. It's just people just don't really care. It'd be the same if like Mark Gatiss was the showrunner. Yeah. Like now don't get me wrong, like he's not like a really bad writer. It's just a lot of his Doctor Who episodes are very just mediocre in my opinion. So I think that's just kind of the same with Pete Mattei. And yeah, I don't really kind of keep track with like TV writers or like who's kind of big or who's notable. So I wouldn't really be able to offer up any like names of my own to suggest like, oh, they should take over. But I'm sure there's like plenty of people, because there's a whole generation that's been skipped basically because of like Davis coming back and like Chibnall and all that lot. So it's like there's got to be so many writers like under 40 that could do a lot to popularize Doctor Who again and breathe some new ideas and life into it. And I think that's kind of where they should be looking, is for younger writers and more upcoming writers and things like that.
For sure. Do you think the show should pivot to be more sort of serialized, as in more sort of overarching narratives that continue throughout episodes, which is very much so the main, or what's very popular in the streaming world of television? Or do you think it should focus more on being episodic and segmented the way that Doctor Who historically has been, especially in the classic series?
It's very tricky, because this is kind of like, if you want to follow the industry trends, then absolutely yes, it would need to be like more serialized, something like Flux, but you know, with like more consistent, better writing. And that's sort of someone who I made like a 2.5 hour video defending Flux. I don't think it's like incredible by any means. It had a lot of flaws, but I think there is value in exploring those kinds of ideas with some like serialized stories, even if you're just going about it where, say, you have a series of, well, I mean, like, again, it's like, I feel like I always do this, but Andor is a great comparison, where they have like arcs, like 3 episodes in an arc, and then they move on to the next story in a different location. I think Doctor Who could do well with that, like 3-parters. Say you have 12 episodes. There you go. You've got like a few multiple part stories. So you kind of do the best of both, because then you keep that sense of anthology and constantly moving forward without getting grounded in the same place. Right. But then when you are in the same place, it's still got enough time to breathe, and you've got enough characters and stuff like that going on.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. And it's funny you bring up Andor specifically, not only because Veradu Sethu is a main character in it, but because that show famously has a prison arc. And during the 13th Doctor's era, she went to prison at one point. And I remember thinking that should have been like an arc, but it just wasn't.
For 5 minutes.
Yeah, resolved very quickly.
It's just like, I'm in prison. Oh, I guess now I'm not in prison. Okay, let's just continue on.
She had a literal get out of jail free card. Well, yeah, I guess that's everything I wanted to ask you.
Oh yeah, happy to be here. I appreciate the invite on. I'm glad we could chat about it.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course, my pleasure.
All right, I will end the recording here. Unless you have any closing thoughts you want to throw out there.
I can't say I do.
Okay.
I think I kind of covered everything in my old brain, but.
Or maybe one last question. What do you?
Yep.
How big a fan are you of Shooty as the Doctor? Not specifically his Doctor, but like his casting as the Doctor.
I think he was miscast. I personally don't really get much value out of his Doctor. I think he was. I think just so inconsistent as a character, and at very times very like too passive and weak. Didn't quite feel like the lead of the show. And obviously in like series 14, he was like barely present because he was filming other stuff. So he was very light in stories. And then and then he leaves in the next series. So you never really truly feel like you get to know him very well, or that he establishes much of a character.
Yeah. I think he's a good actor. And I think he had the potential to be a very good Doctor. I think it was more so the direction that they went with it and the inconsistency in his characterization. And the insistence on showing him as vulnerable and having him cry a lot. I understand why they did it. They were trying to challenge like typical male lead.
They just overdid it.
Yeah, they just really very much so overdid it to the point where it starts to sort of deflate how intimidating
it feels like a parody
comes off
at points.
Yeah. Okay, well, that is officially everything.
Cool. Oh yeah, no, I was happy to be on here.
Thank you everyone for watching. The full video is appearing next to my head right now with the magic of YouTube editing. Feel free to watch it if you have not already. Peace out.